In Wednesday, we were introduced to many different powers, wielded by some extremely deadly characters. Each of these powers came in different forms, in which some relied on pure strength, while others were through deception and even mind tricks. But who are the most powerful characters, and what sets them apart from the rest? Well, we're gonna rank the top 10 most powerful characters in the show, and as the list goes on, you might be surprised who's at the very top. So let's get right into it. At number 10, we have Rowan. Now, although Rowan did die early in the series, and we didn't get to see much of him, from what he showed, he did hold extreme raw power. Rowan's main ability was telekinesis, in which he was able to move people and objects with just his mind. Unlike the Da Vinci students that we saw in season 2, Rowan was very aggressive with his telekinetic powers and didn't hold back from attacking and injuring his fellow students. He was able to not only slam his roommate Xavier against a wall, but also lift Wednesday and throw her against a tree. However, unfortunately for Rowan, it was his obsession with Wednesday that became his eventual downfall. While his abilities were strong, his mind was weak, and because of his crazy obsession to kill Wednesday, he was quickly wiped out by the hide in the forest. It really makes us fans wonder what his true potential could have been had he never developed this obsession. At number 9, we have Xavier. Unlike Rowan, Xavier's powers mainly came from his mind, as he carried a rare ability where he could bring his drawings to life. This power was called psychic animation, and it allowed him to turn anything he drew into reality. At one point, we saw him draw a spider that turned into a real one, and he even drew Wednesday herself playing the cello. So while Xavier may not look physically strong, his power came all from his art, which when used in the right way could be a huge threat. Unfortunately though, he didn't always have control over his powers. Like we saw, he tried drawing the visions he had of the hide, but when he did, the painting came to life and slashed him right across his neck. It makes you think that if he was able to control his art, he could have truly used his powers to do some pretty dangerous things. At number 8, we have Enid. From the outside, she may look happy and colorful, but in reality, Enid had some pretty deadly powers. In the season 1 finale, we saw her transform into a werewolf, and as a result, her size, strength, speed, and agility were all beyond measure. Although it took her a long time to finally wolf out, once she did, she was close to unstoppable, even putting up a fight against Tyler himself. However, there is one problem. While Enid's power made her physically strong, there is a reason why she's not higher on this list. The main reason is that her ability to transform into a werewolf isn't that reliable. From what we've seen, it only ever happened on a full blood moon, and it's not like she's able to transform on demand. Not yet at least. So right now, her powers are limited, but that could eventually change for her, and if so, she'll be a force to be reckoned with. At number 7, we have Principal Weems, or as we all know her, the Shapeshifter. Unlike the others on this list, Weems was able to shapeshift and transform into different people. We saw her turn into Rowan, the older gray-haired man, and later on even Tyler. As we saw, she was able to mimic these people almost to perfection, with every facial feature being the same and even their voices. This ability allowed Weems to be deceptive, sneaky, and allowed her to get away with things that others could never. However, unfortunately, her shapeshifting abilities only got her so far, as her death came pretty quick in the season 1 finale. So while Weems' powers were a gift, she still had her weaknesses. At number 6, we have Bianca. Now, out of the ones we've spoken about so far, Bianca has one of the more interesting powers. Her powers mainly came from her manipulative tactics by using what was called the siren song. Whenever she used her siren song, she was able to trick others by doing whatever she demanded them to do. She could manipulate people's feelings, thoughts, and actions, basically hypnotizing them to do anything. Although we saw her do this a few times in the first season, she does it even more in season 2, really using her powers to her advantage. When used the right way, this power can be used as a weapon, and as we saw, Bianca was able to bend the rules however she liked. Now, it's worth mentioning that although the siren song is her strongest power, she's also capable of something we haven't seen yet. Because she's a siren, she also had the power to transform her legs into long blue mermaid tails whenever underwater. From there, her hands would become webbed, and she could even grow razor-sharp claws. However, we sadly haven't seen this yet from her, as the furthest we've seen her go is when she places her hand into water and we see her scales. We can only assume that when she transforms, she'll be even more powerful than we already know her to be. At number 5, we have Joseph Crackstone. Although we didn't see much of Crackstone's power, when we did see him return back from the dead, he was near to unstoppable. Not only was he able to cast powerful spells, but we even saw him summon flames by merely just slamming his staff on the ground. However, that's not all he could do. As we saw, Crackstone also carried brute strength and was even able to use telekinesis to freeze objects. Now, these were just his powers when he returned back from the dead. It's said that when Crackstone was still a human, he went on a murder spree, killing thousands, potentially even millions of outcasts throughout the world. Although Crackstone was honored by many, in reality he was a vile villain and arguably was one of the most evil characters we've seen in the show. Unfortunately for him though, he did have one downfall, and that was his black heart. After he was resurrected, it was said that the only way to kill him was stabbing him through his black heart. Luckily for Wednesday, she used this to her advantage and killed Crackstone once and for all, which now leads us into our next character. At number 4, we have none other than Wednesday Addams. Now, while Wednesday is the main character, of course, she carried a few abilities that set her apart from everyone else on this list. Out of all her gifts, her main power was her psychic visions, which gave her the ability to see visions of the past, the present, and the future. These visions were usually activated whenever she would physically touch an object or a person that was related to what she was supposed to see. Using this power to her advantage, Wednesday was able to see that Tyler was the Hyde the entire time, and she used these same powers to unravel even more secrets in the second season. Combining that power, along with her relentless dedication and brains, Wednesday was usually always one step ahead of her enemies. However, she was capable of even more than just that. As we've seen, Wednesday is also skilled in hand-to-hand combat, fencing, and fighting. Ever since she was a kid, she was trained in martial arts, which proves to help her now in her teenage years. However, if that's not enough to prove her strength, she even put up a solid fight in combat against Crackstone himself, and of course killed him in the end. With the combination of her physical strength, her visions, and her manipulative tactics, Wednesday is truly one of the more powerful characters we've seen. At number 3, we have Uncle Fester, or better known as Fester Fumagalli, Fester Dubois, or everyone's personal favorite, Fester Fiesta. Unlike the others we've spoken about so far, Fester was a master in what was called electrokinesis. This power allowed him to channel electricity through his body and shock and stun other people just by the touch of his fingers. We also saw it allow him to heal others, as he essentially used this power to bring Thing back to life after he was injured. On top of that, Fester also had increased senses, especially his hearing. As we saw, he was able to sense that Wednesday's stalker was invisible, and as a result, he used his electric powers to shock her almost instantly. However, it wasn't just Fester's physical abilities that made him powerful. Fester has also proved that he can easily slip in and out of areas undetected and get away with things with ease. We saw him do it a countless amount of times, and the best example was in the Willow Hill Hospital in the second season. Using his tactics, he was able to unravel the mystery with Wednesday over there, and in the end, he escaped with no problem at all. However, if that's not enough to convince you about the amount of skills that Fester holds, he's also proved that he has an incredible tolerance to pain. As we saw, he was not only able to eat a cactus as a snack, but also get jolted in the head, all while keeping a smile on his face the entire time. Yeah, Fester's crazy. At number 2, we have Tyler, or as we all know him, the Hyde. At first, we all saw Tyler as a kind, innocent young man, but in reality, he held one of the darkest secrets that we've seen in the show. Later in season 1, we learned that Tyler was able to transform into a beast called the Hyde, which was one of the deadliest, most powerful abilities that we've seen so far. When he transformed, he not only had large eyes, but also sharp teeth, long claws, and even reached a height over 9 feet tall. Not only that, but as he transformed, his speed and stamina increased as well, and he showed no sign of human emotion whatsoever. Throughout both seasons, Tyler's kill count was extremely high, and even killed some of the people on this list such as Rowan. However, there is a reason why Tyler isn't number 1 on this list. As a Hyde, he was controlled by a master, and was forced to swear his loyalty to them and obey every single one of their commands. If a Hyde does choose to kill their master, they seal their own doom by doing so, as they could eventually reach a point of mental insanity and could possibly even die from it. So because of that, Tyler will always be held back from his full potential no matter what. Finally, at the top of our list at number 1, we have Goody Addams. Not only is she Wednesday's ancestor, but Goody was able to do things that nobody on this list could dream of. Out of all things, Goody specialized in witchcraft, even creating her own book of spells which contain rituals, darker magic, and of course spells. However, her book isn't what made her so powerful. Goody was so skilled in witchcraft that she was able to lay a curse on Crackstone's soul as a way to get revenge for all the horrible things that he did. On top of that, she also contained powers even after her death. Not only was she able to appear to Wednesday in her visions, but she also healed her injuries after she was stabbed, which ultimately saved her life. From there, she became one with Wednesday, and in the end, she finally got her revenge after Crackstone's permanent death. This just proves that even beyond her death, she still had many formidable powers, which sets her apart from everybody else on this ranking. But I want to know from you, which of these characters on this list is your favorite? And did I miss any? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.